So I'm looking at a cartoon right now showing two cats chatting at a bar, drinking martinis, and there are Christmas ornaments dangling from the ceiling, and the caption reads, "So they bring a tree in the house and put all these shiny, dangling things on it, then freak out if I go near it. This is why I drink." So the holiday season is upon us, and keeping our furry family members safe during the holidays can be a difficult task. Veterinarian Dr. Robert Reed is here to tell us what preventative measures we need to take to protect our companion animals this holiday season. Welcome back to the program, Dr. Reed.
Hi, Lori. Nice to be back.
Robert, there are many articles that talk about the hazards to pets during the holiday season. Do you see more pet incidents this time of year?
Certainly, we see a lot more unexpected pet incidents, things that come up because of all of the activity and the changes that occur in the household because of the holidays.
So tell us what we need to be aware of.
Well, thinking back to your example of the cartoon regarding the Christmas tree, there are a lot of things associated with the tree and that gets around the tree that can present hazards, both for cats and dogs. The ornaments, of course, you mentioned, obviously, sometimes can be glass. Plenty of people put tinsel or ribbons on their trees. And broken glass can be a hazard for a cat or a dog, either through contact or, in some cases, dogs even chew on them. But for cats, the bigger risk is really the tinsel or any kind of string-like decoration that they might want to chew on, play with, or even swallow, because it can create obstructions in their digestive tract. The electrical cords that attach the trees to the outlets, of course, and to the lights themselves. The water that you put in the tree that sits there and soaks up a little bit of the oils from the tree itself can grow bacteria. There may be some fertilizers in it. These are all things that present mild hazards. The electrical cord is obvious. The glass ornament's obvious. The ribbon and tinsel should be obvious. But a few other things, to think about are like batteries, or gifts that might be placed under the tree that contain things that you don't know about that may become evident to a dog, particularly those that contain food. So if there's one pearl of wisdom I can offer you in protecting your pets from tree-related risks, it's to make sure that if you receive a gift from someone that's wrapped, but you think might have food in it, don't put it under the tree.
Yeah.
Because dogs are very good at sniffing those out.
And how about food hazards?
The food hazards are probably the most common types of problems we encounter, particularly with dogs. The most problematic one is chocolate, and we'll get back to that in a second.
Okay.
But there are other things that you may not think about, like bread dough, which is more prevalent around the holidays and certainly can present problems for dogs, both as a choking hazard and, interestingly, as a potential for alcohol poisoning as it ferments, gets into the system. But, any food that has a high fat content or something that a dog is not used to eating can cause a lot of irritation to the stomach or the intestinal tract. And, more significantly, it particularly has a lot of fat in it, can overstimulate the pancreas and create pancreatitis, which can be a progressive condition if not treated, even to the point of becoming life-threatening. So we worry a lot about those dietary indiscretions. They're easily the most common cause of a medical problem related to the holidays. But chocolate definitely is the big one. That is the thing that we see most often around the holidays. And there's a few things that people may want to remember about chocolate that can be helpful. One is that milk chocolate is the least toxic of the forms of chocolate. We tend to use that as the standard. So if you say that milk chocolate, can cause perhaps a problem for a dog of 20 pounds if they consume 2 ounces of it. Dark chocolate is about twice as toxic as milk chocolate. So a 20-pound dog could become sick if they ingested maybe 1 ounce of it. The really serious ones are baker's chocolate, which is about 8 times as toxic as milk chocolate, and cocoa powder, which is about 10 times as toxic as milk chocolate. White chocolate has very little toxic properties. It doesn't have a lot of actual chocolate in it, so it's a little bit safer. The toxic component is theobromine, and there's a little bit of caffeine in it. So the problems that you would see if a dog ingests too much chocolate is usually a little hyperactivity initially, but sometimes depression, very often a racing heart, sometimes vomiting, very often diarrhea. And if the dose is high enough, it can actually be fatal. So I always recommend that if you think your dog has ingested chocolate, that you talk to someone about it. And I have a number for a poison control line that can be helpful. But always talk to someone about it. Have an idea about how much chocolate the dog or cat, it's usually a dog, has eaten, what kind of chocolate it is, or what kind of mix of chocolates may be in it, so that you can get an idea of actually the amount of toxic component that a dog has eaten to tell you whether their dog is going to have a significant problem and how urgently you need to address it.
Now, I know a lot of people give their dogs bones during the holidays, chicken bones, turkey bones. This can't be healthy or good for the animals, right?
Well, I think that's true. And there's one watchword that I like to follow with feeding a dog during the holidays. But there's a lot of stuff going on in households that create stress for dogs and cats in the household. They have, strange people in the house, changes in schedule, distracted owners. There's a lot going on that create anxiety for pets. The last thing you want to do is introduce new foods into their life that they have to deal with. At any point, a dog or cat is going to have a hard time adjusting their digestive tract to a new food, but particularly when there are other anxieties, other stressors in the household that are causing them problems already. I think that, if there's one thing that you can do just to protect your household overall, and that's to try to provide your pets a refuge from all of the anxiety, all of the activity and excitement that's going on. Not every dog and most cats are not happy about having all these people and all of these things going on at once. So it's helpful to give them a zone that they can go to and be away from all that. And you can allow them exposures in a limited amount. And it also helps keep your guests from giving them food that you're not aware of. It makes it easier for you to keep track of where they are, so you're not worried about them getting out of the house or getting into an area that they're not supposed to be in, or getting into foods or decorations that you don't want them getting into.
That's really great advice, and it's probably important to keep our pets' eating and exercise habits as close to their normal routine as possible, right?
I would agree with that completely. Yeah, do as much as you can to protect their routine, because there are plenty of forces working against you on that, trying to disrupt the routine. Do everything you can to keep it consistent.
Dr. Reed, talk briefly about toxic holiday plants.
That's a good question to bring up, Lori. There are a few plants that we tend to associate with the holidays. The main three are poinsettia, mistletoe, and holly. All three of those have minor toxic components, but generally not life-threatening. They're likely to cause a gastrointestinal upset, maybe some vomiting, potentially some diarrhea, but nothing too serious if they ingest it. And that's usually going to be a dog. Cats will chew on them, and they'll get some vomiting from the irritation, but generally nothing more serious than that. The one plant that everyone who has cats should be aware of is lilies. Lilies are not a big winter flower. They're more of a spring flower. You're not likely to have them in the house, but occasionally flower arrangements will have lilies in them. And every component of the lily plant is toxic to cats, but not to dogs. So anytime you have lilies in the house, make sure they're kept in an area where your cat is not going to be able to get to them. Hey, Lori, there's a couple of more tips I want to offer for people on the holidays. 2 things to remember that you might encounter. Those little silica gel packets that come in boxes to keep the contents dry.
Yeah.
They have a little label that says do not eat. They're not that toxic.
Okay.
Not a big deal. Probably one of the most common reasons people call the poison control hotline is for that, and they're not that bad. And the other thing is those glow-in-the-dark ornaments or glow sticks. If a dog or a cat bites into them, they may act like it really, really bothers them because it tastes really bad, but it's not very toxic.
Great. And Dr. Ree, what is the poison control hotline number, please?
The ASPCA Poison Control Hotline is 888-426-4435. And just so your listeners know, Lori, there's a $65 charge to receive advice through that line.
Okay, I'm going to repeat that number again so people can write it down and hang it up on the refrigerator if they need it in emergency. 888-426-4435. Dr. Robert Reed, thank you.
You bet, Lori. Happy holidays.